My thirsty stepsister hit on every man I introduced to the family until I brought home her married boss. I'm Madison, and I need to tell you about the most insane family dinner that ever happened in my life, the one that changed everything. But first, you need to understand what kind of person my stepsister Amber is. Amber moved into our house when I was 16 and she was 18. Our parents got married in this whirlwind romance that honestly felt like a Hallmark movie gone wrong. My dad met her mom Linda at some corporate retreat, and 6 months later, we were all living under the same roof. I tried to be welcoming. I really did. The first week they moved in, I offered to show Amber around town, take her to the good coffee shops, introduce her to some people from school. She looked at me with this smile that didn't quite reach her eyes and said, "That's sweet, but I'm good at making my own friends." I should have seen it then, that edge underneath the surface. The first guy I brought home was Derek. This was 3 months after we all moved in together. Derek was this sweet guy from my chemistry class who helped me study for finals. We weren't even dating. He was just coming over to work on a group project. I remember being nervous. I wanted my new family to like him. I wanted everything to go smoothly. Amber came downstairs wearing the shortest shorts I've ever seen and a tank top that left nothing to the imagination. She sat right between us on the couch, started asking Derek all these questions about himself, touching his arm, laughing way too loud at everything he said. "So Derek, do you have a girlfriend?" she asked, looking right at me when she said it. No, Derek stammered. He was blushing. "Really? A guy like you? I find that hard to believe." She leaned closer to him. "What kind of girl are you into?" I sat there frozen, not knowing what to do, not wanting to cause a scene in front of my new stepmom and dad who were in the kitchen. Derek never texted me again after that day. When I asked him about the project at school, he said he'd switched groups. He could barely look at me. I thought it was a coincidence, that maybe he just wasn't that into me. Then there was Marcus. I met him at a coffee shop where I worked part-time during college. He was a regular customer and we'd been flirting for weeks. He'd come in every morning, order the same black coffee, and we'd chat for a few minutes. He asked me out 3 times before I finally said yes. We went on 4 dates, real dates, movies, dinner, a walk by the lake where he held my hand. I thought maybe this was going somewhere. I finally invited him over for dinner to meet my family. I was excited, nervous. I spent an hour getting ready. Amber showed up in a dress at a casual family dinner, a tight black dress with heels. She'd curled her hair, put on makeup that made her look like she was going to a club. "Wow," my dad said. "Where are you headed tonight?" "Nowhere," Amber said sweetly. I just felt like dressing up. She spent the entire meal leaning forward, asking Marcus about his job, his hobbies, his relationship history. Every time I tried to contribute to the conversation, she'd talk over me or redirect his attention. "Madison never mentioned how funny you are," she said at one point. "Madison never mentioned how beautiful her sister is," Marcus replied. My dad and Linda didn't say anything. They just smiled like this was normal sisterly behavior, like I should be proud that Amber found my boyfriend attractive. Marcus asked for Amber's number before he left, right in front of me. She gave it to him. He texted her that night. I know because I saw the notification pop up on her phone when we were watching TV later. She didn't even try to hide it. That's when I realized this wasn't a coincidence. This was a pattern. Over the next 4 years, it happened again and again. There was Tyler, a guy from my economics class who I studied with every Tuesday. We'd been building up to asking each other out for weeks. I invited him to a barbecue at our house. Amber cornered him by the pool, and somehow they ended up exchanging Instagram handles. She posted a photo of them together later that night. He never came to study group again. There was Nathan, who I met at a bookstore. We bonded over our favorite authors. He asked me to a poetry reading. We had this amazing conversation about literature and life. I brought him to Sunday brunch at my dad's place. Amber wore this low-cut top and spent the entire meal discussing books she'd never read, pulling quotes from her phone and pretending she'd memorized them. Nathan asked her if she wanted to join a book club he was part of. He stopped returning my texts after that. There was Christopher, who I worked with on a volunteer project building homes for families in need. We spent 3 weekends sweating in the sun, hammering nails, painting walls. There was something real growing between us, something genuine. I invited him to my dad's birthday dinner. Amber showed up late, making this grand entrance, apologizing profusely, and making everyone pay attention to her. She spent the rest of the night asking Christopher about the volunteer work, saying how she'd always wanted to do something meaningful like that. She showed up at the next build site. Christopher couldn't stop looking at her. 2 weeks later, they were getting coffee together. A month after that, she stopped showing up to the builds, and Christopher stopped texting me. Every single guy I showed even the smallest interest in became Amber's target. She'd flirt, she'd pursue, and somehow, these guys would forget I existed. The worst part, she never actually dated any of them. Once she got their attention away from me, she'd lose interest and move on. It was like she just wanted to prove she could take them. Marcus lasted the longest. They went on maybe 3 dates before she told him she wasn't feeling it. I saw him at the coffee shop months later. He looked embarrassed. "Madison, I'm sorry about what happened," he said. "I was an idiot. Your sister, she was just so forward, and I got caught up in the attention." "It's fine," I lied. "It's not fine. You were real. She was just playing some kind of game." But by then, it was too late. I couldn't trust him anymore. I couldn't trust any of them. I stopped bringing guys home. I stopped talking about my dating life at family dinners. I built this wall between my personal life and my family life because I couldn't handle watching her do it again. My friends noticed. My best friend Kelly cornered me one night after I canceled plans to go to a party where a guy I liked would be. "What's going on with you?" she asked. "You've been avoiding dating for like a year now. It's complicated," I said. "Is it your stepsister?" I looked at her surprised. "How did you know?" "Madison, everyone knows. Everyone who knows Amber knows what she does. She did it to my cousin last year. Stole her boyfriend right out from under her at a family wedding. Why didn't you tell me? I thought you knew. I thought you were okay with it or something." I wasn't okay with it. I was the opposite of okay. But what could I do? Tell my dad his new stepdaughter was systematically sabotaging my love life? He was so happy with Linda. They seemed perfect together. I didn't want to be the problem child who couldn't get along with her new family. So I stayed quiet. I dated guys in secret. I never brought them around. I kept my world separate. But then I met Victoria. Victoria wasn't a guy, so I thought I was safe. She was my boss at the marketing firm where I landed my first real job after college. She was 42, married, had 2 kids, and was the most intimidating person I'd ever worked for. My first day, she called me into her office. "Madison," she said, not looking up from her computer, "I hired you because your portfolio showed promise. But promise doesn't mean success. You're going to have to work harder here than you've ever worked in your life. Can you handle that?" "Yes," I said. My voice shook a little. She looked up then, really looked at me. Good, because I don't waste time on people who can't keep up. The first 3 months were brutal. Victoria gave me assignments with impossible deadlines. She critiqued everything I produced. She pushed me in ways my professors never had. But she was also brilliant and kind, and she became something like a mentor to me. I remember the first time she praised my work. I'd stayed up until 3 in the morning redesigning a campaign for a skincare client. I'd gone through 7 different versions before I found one that felt right. Victoria looked at it for a long time. Then she nodded. "This is good work, Madison. This is the level I need from you." I almost cried from relief. After that, things changed. Victoria started inviting me to client dinners. She'd ask my opinion in meetings. She gave me projects that were way above my pay grade because she said she saw potential in me. "You remind me of myself at your age," she said one day over coffee. "Hungry, determined, willing to do the work that other people won't." We started having lunch together once a week. She'd tell me about her career path, about the mistakes she'd made, about the lessons she'd learned. "The biggest thing I wish someone had told me," she said, "is that your personal life matters as much as your professional life. I spent my 20s sacrificing everything for work. My marriage almost didn't survive it. But you guys are good now?" I asked. "We are. But it took work, real work, therapy, honesty, commitment from both of us." I found myself opening up to her in ways I didn't with other people. Maybe because she was older, maybe because she was removed from my regular life, maybe because she listened without judgment. For the first time in my professional life, I felt like I mattered, like I was building towards something real. One day, about 8 months into working there, Victoria called me into her office. She had this look on her face, serious but excited. "Madison," she said, "I'm putting together a team for our biggest client pitch of the year, Westbrook Industries. They're worth $10 million in annual revenue if we land them. I want you on it." I almost cried. This was the kind of opportunity people wait years for. Some people never got opportunities like this. "Are you serious?" I asked. "Completely. You've earned this. Thank you. Thank you so much. There's one thing, though," she continued. "The client dinners are going to be pretty frequent over the next 2 months. Late nights, weekend work sessions. This is all consuming when we're in pitch mode. I need to know you're all in." "I'm all in," I said without hesitation, and I was. We worked crazy hours. 10-hour days turned into 12-hour days turned into weekends at the office. Victoria and I became close in the way you do when you're in the trenches together. We'd order Chinese food at 9 at night and eat it at the conference table, reviewing presentation slides. We'd text each other ideas at midnight. We'd meet for coffee at 6 in the morning to strategize before the rest of the team arrived. During one of those late nights when we were both exhausted and punchy from too much caffeine, Victoria started talking about her marriage. "Ryan and I almost got divorced 3 years ago," she said. "Did I ever tell you that?" "No," I said, surprised she was sharing something so personal. We'd been together since college, 20 years, and we almost threw it all away. "What happened?" She was quiet for a moment. "A lot of things. Work stress, communication breakdown. We stopped being partners and started being roommates. And then there was someone else, someone at Ryan's office who made him feel seen in a way I wasn't making him feel anymore. Did he cheat? No, but he was tempted, very tempted. And that was almost worse in some ways, because it meant something was broken between us that we'd both been ignoring. How did you fix it? Therapy. A lot of therapy. And honesty. We had to say things to each other that were really hard to say. We had to acknowledge our roles in what went wrong. And we had to decide if we wanted to fight for what we had or walk away. "I'm glad you fought for it," I said. "Me too. But Madison, I'm telling you this because I want you to understand something. Relationships take work. All relationships. Professional, personal, familial. You have to show up. You have to be honest. And you have to be willing to do the hard things." I thought about Amber then. About how she never showed up for anything. Real. About how she just took and moved on. "I have a stepsister," I found myself saying. "And she's the opposite of what you're describing. She doesn't build anything. She just destroys things other people have built." "Tell me about her," Victoria said. So I did. I told her about the pattern. About every guy I'd brought home. About how I felt like I couldn't trust anyone I dated around my family. About how isolated I'd become because I was so afraid of her doing it again. Victoria listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for for a long time. That's not a you problem, she finally said. That's an Amber problem, and the only way to deal with people like that is to stop giving them power over your choices. But how do I do that? You live your life. You bring people into your life who matter to you. And if she tries her thing, you trust that the right people will see through it. The guys who fell for her game, they weren't your people anyway. They were weak. They were easily manipulated. You don't want that. She was right. I knew she was right. You know what you should do? Victoria said, a small smile on her face. You should bring someone to a family dinner who's completely immune to her tricks. Someone who would never fall for it. Like who? Like me, Victoria said. I'm married. I'm old enough to be her mother. I'm your boss. There's nothing she could do with that. We both laughed, but the idea stuck with me. A week later, my dad called. Madison, your stepmother's birthday is coming up. We're doing a big family dinner. I'd really love it if you came. I know you've been busy with work, but it's been months since we've all been together. I felt the familiar dread. Another family dinner. Another opportunity for Amber to make me feel small. But then I remembered what Victoria said. About not giving Amber power. About living my life. Can I bring someone? I asked. Of course. Are you seeing someone? No, not like that. My boss. She's been amazing to me, and I'd like you to meet her. Your boss? My dad sounded surprised, but pleased. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Of course she can come. I asked Victoria the next day at work. We were in her office reviewing some final details for the Westbrook pitch. So that family dinner we joked about, I said. It's actually happening. My stepmom's birthday is next Saturday. Would you want to come? Victoria looked up from her laptop. Are you serious? Totally serious. I want you to meet my dad, and honestly, I could use the backup. The backup against your stepsister? Exactly. Victoria studied me for a moment. Okay, I'll come, but only if you're sure. Family dynamics can be tricky, and I don't want to make things worse. You won't, I said. Trust me. The week leading up to the dinner, I felt nervous, but also strangely excited. For the first time in years, I was bringing someone important to me into my family sphere, someone who Amber couldn't touch. I didn't think about the fact that Victoria was married. I didn't think about the fact that Amber worked in corporate recruiting. I definitely didn't think about the fact that Victoria's company and Amber's company had ever crossed paths. I should have thought about all of that. The dinner was on a Saturday night. I spent the afternoon cleaning my apartment even though we weren't having dinner there. Nervous energy. I picked Victoria up at 6. Her husband had taken their kids to some soccer tournament out of state, so she was free. She brought wine and this beautiful flower arrangement for Linda. Are you sure about this? Victoria asked as we pulled into my dad's driveway. Family dinners can be intense. I don't want to intrude. You're not intruding, I said. I want you here. You're important to me, and I want my dad to know the person who's been such a huge part of my professional growth. Well, when you put it like that, Victoria smiled. Let's do this. We walked in together. My dad was at the grill outside. I could smell burgers and chicken. Linda was setting the table with her good china, and Amber was in the kitchen pulling together a salad. Everyone, this is Victoria, I announced, feeling proud. She's my boss at the firm. Linda smiled warmly, walking over to take the flowers. How lovely. Thank you so much. Madison's told us so much about her work. My dad waved from the patio, tongs in hand. Great to meet you. Hope you like your burger medium rare. And Amber looked up from the salad bowl. Her face went completely white. The color just drained out of it like someone had pulled a plug. Victoria Chen? Amber said. Her voice was strange, tight, almost strangled. Yes, Victoria said, extending her hand professionally. Have we met? You interviewed me, Amber said. She didn't take Victoria's hand. 4 months ago, for the senior recruiter position at your firm. Oh no. The air in the room changed. I could feel it. I remember, Victoria said. Her tone was cool, professional. The same tone she used when she was dealing with a difficult client. Small world. Amber didn't shake her hand. She just stared at Victoria like she'd seen a ghost. Or maybe like she'd seen someone she wanted to destroy. I didn't understand what was happening. Victoria had interviewed lots of people. We were a big firm. Interviewing candidates was part of her job. Why would Amber have this reaction? Did you get the job? I asked Amber, trying to break the tension. No, Amber said flatly. I didn't. Linda jumped in quickly. Well, these things happen. There are plenty of opportunities out there. Amber's doing great at her current position, aren't you, honey? Amber didn't respond. She went back to the salad, cutting tomatoes with more force than necessary. Dinner was awkward. Painfully awkward. Amber barely spoke. She sat there picking at her food, shooting glances at Victoria every few minutes. Victoria acted completely normal, chatting with my dad about his golf game and complimenting Linda on the house. You have a beautiful home, Victoria said. How long have you lived? Here? About 4 years now, Linda said. We moved in shortly after David and I got married. It's lovely. Very warm. Thank you. I try to make it welcoming. Family is so important to me. I watched Amber's jaw tighten at that. My dad started talking about work. He was in sales for a pharmaceutical company. Boring stuff. But Victoria listened politely, asking intelligent questions. She was good at this. Good at making people feel heard. And what about you, Amber? Victoria asked. Madison mentioned you work in recruiting? Amber looked up. Yes, that's an interesting field. Very people-focused. I'm good with people, Amber said. There was an edge to her voice. I'm sure you are, Victoria said neutrally. After dinner, I went to help my dad with the dishes while Victoria and Linda talked in the living room. I was rinsing plates when Amber followed me into the kitchen. What are you doing? She hissed, keeping her voice low enough that only I could hear. What do you mean? I'm doing dishes. is bringing her here. Victoria Chen. Are you trying to rub it in my face? I turned to look at her. Rub what in your face? I didn't even know you'd interviewed at my company. She rejected me, Amber said. Her eyes were bright with something like anger, something like pain. She sat there in that interview and made me feel like I was nothing, like I wasn't qualified, like I wasn't good enough. I'd never seen Amber like this. Vulnerable, hurt, almost small. It was unsettling. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. I didn't know, but Victoria's really great at her job. I'm sure it wasn't personal. Everything's personal, Amber snapped, especially with women like her. Women who think they're better than everyone else. Women who have to prove they're the smartest person in the room. That's not fair. You don't know her, and you don't know what happened in that interview. Then, tell me. Amber's expression changed, closed off. Forget it. It doesn't matter. She walked out of the kitchen. I found Victoria on the front porch 20 minutes later. She was checking her phone, scrolling through emails even though it was Saturday night. I should probably head out, she said when she saw me. I think I made things uncomfortable. It's not your fault, I said. Amber's just Amber. Victoria looked at me carefully. Madison, there's something you should know about that interview. You don't have to explain your hiring decisions to me. I'm not explaining a hiring decision, Victoria said. I'm explaining why I remember your stepsister very specifically. She paused, took a breath. Amber didn't just interview badly. During the interview, she asked me about my personal life, about my marriage. I usually deflect those questions, but she was persistent. And when I mentioned very briefly that my husband and I had gone through a rough patch a few years ago, she said something that made me very uncomfortable. What did she say? She said that marriages that survive rough patches never really recover, that someone's always looking for an exit, that it's just a matter of time before one person finds someone better. And then she gave me her personal number, said if I ever needed someone to talk to, someone who understood, I should call her. My stomach dropped. I ended the interview right there, Victoria continued. I've been in this business a long time, Madison. I know when someone's being friendly and when someone's being inappropriate. Your stepsister crossed a line, a major line, and she did it deliberately. Oh my God, there's more, Victoria said. After the interview, she sent me an email, supposedly following up on her application, but in it, she mentioned Ryan by name. My husband said she'd looked him up on LinkedIn and noticed we worked in similar industries, said it would be interesting to discuss career paths over coffee sometime. How did she know Ryan's name? I don't know. Maybe she stalked my social media. Maybe she did research before the interview, but it was calculated, Madison. She was testing boundaries, seeing what she could get away with. I felt sick. This wasn't just about taking guys I liked. This was about something deeper, something more disturbing. I'm so sorry, I said. You have nothing to apologize for, but I wanted you to know, because I get the feeling that what she did to you with those guys, that's not the extent of her behavior. That's just what you've seen. I drove Victoria home in silence. My brain was spinning. Amber had hit on my married boss during a job interview, before I even brought Victoria home, before she even knew Victoria was important to me. This wasn't about me. This was just who Amber was. When I got back to my apartment that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Victoria had said, about Amber's pattern, about the calculated way she'd approached the interview. And then I remembered something. A conversation I'd overheard about a year ago when I was visiting my dad's house. Amber had been on the phone in her room, but her door was open. I was walking past to use the bathroom. He's married. So what? She was saying. Married men are easier. They're grateful for the attention. They're bored with their wives. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. I'd been shocked at the time, but convinced myself I'd misunderstood, that she was talking about a TV show or something. Now I realized she'd been talking about her actual philosophy. I did something I'd never done before. I called my mom, my real mom, the one my dad divorced when I was 12. We had a decent relationship, my mom and I. We talked every few weeks, had lunch once a month, but we didn't talk about deep stuff very often. We kept things light. Madison? She answered on the third ring. Is everything okay? It's almost midnight. Did you ever meet Linda before she married Dad? I asked. There was a long pause. Once, my mom said. Why? What was she like? Another pause. Longer this time. I could hear her moving around. Maybe going to another room where she could talk privately. Your father brought her to your 8th grade graduation, my mom said slowly. This was 2 years after our divorce was finalized. He introduced her as his girlfriend. She seemed nice. Enough. Polite. Well-dressed. But Madison, there was something that bothered me. What? The way she looked at me. She wasn't nervous or awkward like most new girlfriends would be meeting the ex-wife. She was almost triumphant, like she'd won something. What do you mean? I can't explain it exactly. It was just a feeling. And then, after the ceremony, she pulled me aside, said she hoped we could all be adults about the situation, that she and your father were very happy together, and she hoped I could be happy for them. That doesn't sound that bad. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it, like she was staking a claim, like she wanted to make sure I knew that she'd taken something that used to be mine. I felt cold. Mom, can I ask you something else? When did Dad actually meet Linda? He said he met her at a work conference, about 6 months before he asked for the divorce. Do you believe that? My mom was quiet for a long time. No, she finally said. I don't. I think he met her earlier. I think he was involved with her while we were still together, but I could never prove it. Why do you think that? Because your father changed about a year before he asked for the divorce. He started dressing better, working out, coming home late. All the classic signs. When I confronted him, he said I was being paranoid, that he was just stressed about work. Did you investigate? I hired a private investigator, my mom admitted. I've never told you this. The investigator couldn't find evidence of an affair, but he did find evidence that your father had been meeting someone for coffee regularly, always at this place downtown, always on his lunch break. The investigator got photos, but they were taken from a distance. I could never see the woman's face clearly. Did you confront Dad about it? I tried. He said she was a colleague, that they were working on a project together, and I wanted to believe him, Madison. I really did, so I let it go. Do you still have those photos? I might. Somewhere in storage. Why are you asking all this? I told her about the dinner, about Amber and Victoria, about the pattern I'd discovered. When I finished, my mom was silent for a long time. Madison, she finally said, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you years ago. What? A few months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into someone your father used to work with. She'd left the company by then. We got coffee, and she told me something that I've never been able to forget. What did she tell you? She said Linda had a reputation, that she'd worked at several companies in the area, and at each one she'd been involved with a married man. Never anything provable. Nothing that would get her fired, but there was always talk, always rumors. And then she'd move on to a new company, and it would start again. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were 12 years old and your father had just left us. I didn't want to poison you against his new family. I thought maybe the rumors were wrong. Maybe Linda had changed. Maybe your father was different. But you don't think that anymore. No, my mom said quietly. I don't. And if her daughter is anything like her, Madison, you need to be very careful. I hung up and sat on my couch staring at the wall. My mind was racing. Amber didn't learn this behavior from nowhere. She learned it from her mother. Linda had been doing this for years, moving from company to company, man to man, taking what she wanted and moving on when it got complicated, and my father had been one of her targets. The next morning, I couldn't focus on anything. I kept thinking about my mom's words, about Linda's pattern, about how Amber was following in her footsteps. I went to the office even though it was Sunday. Victoria was there too, working on the Westbrook presentation. Hey, she said when I walked in. Couldn't sleep either? Not really. Want to talk about it? So I told her everything. About my conversation with my mom, about the timeline of my parents' divorce, about Linda's history. Victoria listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. Madison, I need to tell you something, she said. Something I probably should have mentioned last night, but I was trying to keep things professional. What? When you asked me about that woman at Ryan's office, the one who tried to break up our marriage. Linda Walsh, I said, remembering. I've been thinking about it all night, about the timeline, about when it happened. And it was 5 years ago, late spring. Ryan was working at Bennett Financial. It's a big company, lots of employees. I only met this Linda person once, at a company party Ryan dragged me to. What did she look like? Blonde hair, pretty in a very calculated way, probably early 40s at the time. She was very charming, at first. Asked me all about my work, seemed genuinely interested, and then she started asking about our marriage, how we balanced two careers, whether we ever got tired of each other. That's weird for someone you just met. Exactly. I thought so too. But Ryan said she was just being friendly, that I was reading too much into it. But you weren't. No. About a month after that party, Ryan started coming home late. He was distant, distracted. I thought it was work, stress. But then I saw text messages on his phone. From Linda? Yes. Nothing explicit, but flirtatious, testing boundaries. She'd text him late at night, say things like, I can't stop thinking about our conversation earlier, or you really get me in a way most people don't. My heart was pounding. What happened? I confronted Ryan. He admitted that Linda had been pursuing him, that he'd been flattered by the attention, that he'd considered having an affair, but hadn't acted on it. We started therapy immediately. And Linda? She left Bennett Financial about 2 months later. I heard through Ryan that she'd moved to a different company. I was just glad she was gone. Victoria, do you have any photos from that company party? She thought for a moment. Maybe. Ryan might have some on his old phone. Why? Because I need to know if Linda Walsh from Ryan's company is the same Linda who married my father. Victoria pulled out her phone, called Ryan. I could hear his voice through the speaker, groggy from sleep. Vic, it's 7 a.m. on a Sunday. Is everything okay? I need you to find those photos from that Bennett Financial party, the one from 5 years ago. Why? Just trust me. Can you look? There was rustling, movement. Ryan was clearly getting out of bed to look for his old phone. Give me a minute, he said. We waited. Victoria and I looked at each other. My hands were shaking. Okay, found them, Ryan said. I'm looking through them now. There are probably 50 photos here. What am I looking for? Photos of Linda Walsh, the woman from your office. Right, that Linda. There was a pause. Okay, I found a few. She's in the background of this one. And here's one where she's talking to some people from accounting. Let me text them to you. Victoria's phone buzzed. She opened the photos, zoomed in. Then she turned the phone to show me. And there she was. Linda, my stepmother, standing at a corporate party 5 years ago, wearing a red dress, standing very close to a man I didn't recognize, her hand on his arm, her body language open and flirtatious. That's her, I said. My voice sounded strange, far away. Are you sure? Victoria asked. I'm sure. That's Linda. Victoria put the phone to her ear. Ryan, when exactly did Linda leave the company? I'd have to check, but I think it was June, maybe early July, 5 years ago. And when did her pursuit of you end? Around the same time. She basically disappeared, stopped texting, stopped showing up at places where she knew I'd be. I was relieved. Do you know why she left? I heard through the grapevine that she'd found a new job, better pay or something. Victoria thanked him and hung up. She looked at me. Madison, when did your parents get divorced? The divorce was finalized in August, 5 years ago. And when did your dad meet Linda officially? He said he met her at a work conference in March, 6 months before the divorce. Victoria pulled up a calendar on her computer, started marking dates. So Linda was pursuing Ryan in May. She left his company in June. Your parents' divorce was finalized in August. When did your dad introduce you to Linda? October, about 2 months after the divorce was final. But he'd been seeing her for 7 months at that point, according to his timeline. Yes, Madison, Victoria said slowly. I think Linda's pattern is very specific. She pursues married men, gets them interested, but she doesn't wait around if they don't leave their wives. She moves on to the next target. Ryan didn't bite, so she found your father, someone who would bite. The room was spinning. You think she deliberately breaks up marriages? I think she looks for vulnerable marriages, ones that are already struggling, and she offers these men something they think is missing: attention, excitement, the fantasy of starting over. But why? I don't know. Maybe it makes her feel powerful. Maybe she likes the challenge. Maybe she has some deep psychological reason, but the pattern is clear. I felt sick. My dad wasn't special to Linda. He was just the one who said yes. I need to see those photos from the private investigator, I said. The ones my mom had. That afternoon, I drove to my mom's house. She was still in her pajamas when she answered the door. Madison? What's wrong? You sounded frantic on the phone. I need to see those photos from the investigator. My mom led me to her basement. She had boxes of old papers stored down there. Tax returns, legal documents, stuff from the divorce. It took us an hour, but we finally found the manila envelope. Private investigator written on the front in my mom's handwriting. Inside were maybe 20 photos, all taken from a distance. My father and a woman sitting at various coffee shops, walking together in a park, standing in a parking lot talking. The woman's face was never clear, always turned away or obscured by distance or angle, except in one photo. One single photo where she was looking toward the camera. It was grainy, taken with a zoom lens, but it was clear enough. It was Linda. This was taken in February, my mom said, looking at the date stamp on the back. A month before your father said he met her, so he'd been lying about when they met, about how they met, about everything. I took photos of the investigator's photos with my phone, thanked my mom, drove back to my apartment, and then I did something I'd been avoiding. I looked up Linda's work history on LinkedIn. She'd worked at 7 different companies in the last 15 years. Each job lasted between 1 and 3 years, and each company was a place where married executives worked. I started calling people, old colleagues of Linda's. I pretended to be doing a reference check for a job application. Most people were diplomatic. Linda was professional. She did her work. I don't recall any issues, but one woman, a former office manager named Patricia, was more forthcoming. Linda Walsh? Patricia said. Oh, I remember her. She worked here for about 18 months. Very charming, very good at her job, but there were rumors. What kind of rumors? That she was having an affair with one of our VPs. He was married, had 3 kids. The whole thing came out when his wife showed up at the office one day and caused a scene. Linda left shortly after that. Do you know what happened to the VP? He got divorced. Last I heard, he and Linda dated for a few months, but it didn't work out. He ended up marrying someone else. I thanked Patricia and hung up. Then I called 2 more former colleagues. Got similar stories, different men, same pattern. Linda pursued married men, got them to leave their wives, dated them briefly, then moved on when the novelty wore off. My father was just her latest victim, and Amber had been learning from her mother this entire time. I spent the next 2 days compiling everything I'd found: the photos, the timelines, the testimony from Victoria and Ryan, the information from Linda's former colleagues, and then I did the hardest thing I'd ever done. I called my father. Madison, good to hear from you, sweetheart. How are you? Dad, I need to talk to you about something important. Of course. What's on your mind? Not over the phone. Can you come to my apartment? Alone? Is everything okay? Just please come. It's important. He arrived an hour later looking worried. Madison, you're scaring me. What's going on? I handed him the folder I'd prepared. I need you to look at this. He opened it, started reading, looking at photos. His face went from confused to shocked to devastated. Where did you get these? He finally asked. Some from Mom, some from Victoria, some from my own research. Madison, it's the truth, Dad. Linda was having an affair with you while you were still married to Mom. She was pursuing Victoria's husband at the same time. She has a history of doing this, breaking up marriages, moving from man to man. My dad sat down heavily on my couch. He looked older suddenly, tired. I don't believe this. It's all documented. Dates, photos, testimony. Dad, Linda isn't who you think she is. She loves me. Does she? Or did she love the idea of taking you away from Mom? He didn't answer. And Amber's doing the same thing. She learned it from Linda. Every guy I've ever brought home, she's stolen. And she tried to do it with Victoria too. Before I even brought Victoria to dinner, she hit on Victoria during a job interview, made inappropriate comments about her marriage. That doesn't sound like Amber. It sounds exactly like Amber. You just haven't been paying attention. My dad sat there for a long time, just looking at the papers, at the evidence of his wife's pattern. What do you want me to do? He finally asked. I want you to see who she really is, and I want you to decide if this is the life you want. He left shortly after that, took the folder with him. I didn't hear from him for 3 days. During those 3 days, I threw myself into work. The Westbrook pitch was in a week, and I needed the distraction. Victoria noticed I was off. You okay? She asked during one of our late night work sessions. I told my dad about Linda. How did he take it? I don't know. He left, and I haven't heard from him since. Give him time. This is a lot to process. What if he doesn't believe me? What if he stays with her anyway? Then that's his choice, Victoria said gently. You've done what you can do. You've given him the information. The rest is up to him. On the fourth day, my dad called. Can you come to the house? He asked. I need you here. Is Linda there? Yes. And Amber. We're going to have a family meeting. Dad, I don't think that's a good idea. Please, Madison, I need you here. So I went, with a knot in my stomach and no idea what to expect. When I arrived, Linda and Amber were sitting in the living room. My dad was standing by the fireplace. The folder I'd given him was on the coffee table. Madison's here, my dad said unnecessarily. Linda looked at me. Her expression was hard to read. Not angry exactly, more resigned. Your father showed me your little investigation, she said. It's not an investigation. It's the truth. The truth according to you. The truth according to documented evidence. Amber stood up. You're trying to break up our family? I'm trying to show Dad who he's actually married to. You're jealous, Amber said. You've always been jealous of what Mom and your dad have. I'm not jealous. I'm concerned. Ladies, my dad said. That's enough. Linda, I need you to be honest with me about everything. About when we really met, about Ryan Chen, about the other men. Linda was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I met you before March. We met in January at a hotel bar. You were there for a conference. I was there for a different conference. We started talking. You told me you were unhappy in your marriage, that you felt trapped, that your wife didn't understand you anymore. So you pursued me. So we pursued each other. Don't act like you were some innocent victim, David. You wanted out of your marriage long before you met me. I just gave you a reason to actually do it. And Ryan Chen, that was before you. He wasn't going to leave his wife. I moved on. To me. To you. And how many others were there? Linda smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Does it matter? You got what you wanted. A divorce from a wife you didn't love anymore. A new life. Don't pretend you're the victim here. But you lied to me about when we met. About who you were. I streamlined the timeline. Made it easier for everyone. My dad looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You're not even sorry. Sorry for what? For being honest about what this was? We were both using each other, David. You used me to escape a marriage you didn't want. I used you for stability and security. That's how adult relationships work. That's not how my relationship works, I said. That's not how real love works. Real love? Linda laughed. You're 27 years old. You don't know anything about real love. I know it's not this. I know it's not manipulation and lies and destroying other people's lives for your own benefit. Amber jumped in then. You're so self-righteous. Like you're perfect. Like you haven't made mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes, but I've never deliberately hurt people the way you and your mother do. Those guys you brought home, they weren't worth it anyway. I did you a favor. You didn't do me a favor. You stole from me over and over again because you wanted to prove you could, because I could, Amber shot back, because they wanted me more than they wanted you, because you threw yourself at them like you had something to prove. Girls, my dad shouted. Enough. The room went silent. My dad turned to Linda. I want you to leave. What? I want you and Amber to leave. Tonight. I need time to think. Need space. David, you're being ridiculous. This is ancient history. What we did 5 years ago doesn't matter now. It matters to me. And it's not just 5 years ago. It's who you are, who you've always been. And I don't think I can live with that anymore. Linda stood up. Fine. We'll leave. But don't come crying to me when you realize you've made a mistake. When you realize how lonely you're going to be. I'd rather be lonely than be lied to, my dad said quietly. Linda and Amber left that night, packed some bags, and went to a hotel. My dad and I sat in the living room in silence for a long time. I'm sorry, I finally said. Don't be. You did the right thing. I just wish I'd seen it sooner. She's right about one thing, I said. You were unhappy with Mom. That part was real. I was. But that doesn't excuse how I handled it. I should have been honest with your mother. Should have tried harder to fix things. Instead, I took the easy way out. Are you going to get divorced? I don't know yet. I need to think. But yeah, probably. We sat there for a while longer. Then my dad looked at me. You know what the worst part is? He said. What? I thought I was so happy. I thought Linda and I had something special. But now I look back and I can't remember a single moment that felt real. It all feels like a performance. Like she was playing a role. Maybe she was. Yeah, he said sadly. Maybe she was. The Westbrook pitch happened the following week. Victoria and I presented to a room full of executives. We nailed it. Every slide, every talking point, every answer to their questions. They called us 2 days later. We got the account. Victoria took the whole team out to celebrate. At dinner, she pulled me aside. I'm proud of you, she said. Not just for the pitch, for everything. I didn't do anything special. You stood up for what was right. You protected your father. You didn't let Amber and Linda get away with their behavior. That takes courage. It doesn't feel like courage. It feels like I blew up my family. You didn't blow it up. They did. You just turned on the lights so everyone could see what was really there. A month later, my dad officially filed for divorce. Linda tried to fight it at first. Wanted alimony. Wanted half of everything. But my dad's lawyer brought up the timeline, the documented affair, the pattern of behavior. Linda settled quickly after that. She and Amber moved to another state. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Amber got a job at some startup and lasted 3 months before being fired for inappropriate behavior with a manager. My dad and my mom didn't get back together. Too much time had passed. Too much damage. But they became friends again. Real friends. They had coffee sometimes. Talked about me. About their lives. About everything they should have talked about years ago. I'm sorry I didn't see it, my mom said to me one day over lunch. About Linda. About what she was doing. You had suspicions. You hired an investigator. But I didn't push. I let it go. Maybe if I'd fought harder, then Dad would have resented you, and they would have ended up together anyway. This had to happen the way it happened. Victoria and I are still close. She got promoted to vice president last year. She put me up for the senior manager position she vacated, and I got it. I'm 28 now, running my own team, leading my own projects, and I'm dating someone. His name is James. I met him at a friend's wedding. He's a high school teacher. He's kind. He's steady. He's real in a way that's hard to describe. I introduced him to my dad on our 4th date. I was nervous, worried that somehow James would disappoint me like all the others had, but he didn't. He and my dad talked about baseball for 30 minutes, about teaching, about life. And when we left, my dad hugged me and said, "I like him, sweetheart. He seems genuine." "He is," I said. "I haven't introduced James to my mom yet. I'm taking it slow, but I think it might actually work this time, because here's what I learned from all of this. Some people are takers. They see something they want, and they take it. They don't care who they hurt or what they destroy in the process. They just want to prove they can have it. And other people build things. They invest. They show up. They choose you even when choosing. You is hard. Amber and Linda were takers. They left a trail of broken relationships and damaged people behind them. But me, I'm a builder, and I'm done letting takers have any power in my life. Last week, I got a LinkedIn message from Amber. "Hey, Madison, I know we haven't talked in a while. I'm in town next month for a conference. Would love to grab coffee and catch up." I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me was curious. Part of me wondered if she'd changed, if she'd learned anything, if there was any possibility of reconciliation. Then I remembered everything. The guys she'd stolen, the interview with Victoria, the way she'd looked at me during that final family meeting like I was the enemy. I blocked her. I showed the message to James before I did it. "Do you think that's harsh?" I asked. He thought about it. "I think that's healthy. Some people don't deserve another chance to hurt you. You're probably right." "I know I'm right," he said, kissing my forehead. "You've worked too hard to build a good life to let her back in. And you know what? He's absolutely right. I'm 28 years old now. I have a career I love, a partner who respects me, a dad who learned a hard lesson and came out better for it, and a relationship with my mom that's stronger than it's ever been. Amber has whatever life she's built for herself, and Linda has whatever she deserves. I don't think about them much anymore, except sometimes, late at night, I wonder if they ever think about that dinner, about the moment everything came crashing down, about the look on my dad's face when he realized he'd been played. I hope they do. Not because I want them to suffer, but because I want them to learn people aren't conquests. Relationships aren't games, and family is supposed to mean something. They forgot that. Or maybe they never knew it in the first place, but I know it now, and that makes all the difference. Victoria called me yesterday. She wanted to tell me that she ran into Linda at an industry event. Linda apparently tried to strike up a conversation, tried to act like nothing had ever happened. "What did you do?" I asked. "I walked away," Victoria said. "She's not worth my energy." "Good," I said. "But Madison, I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For being brave enough to expose the truth, for protecting your dad, for protecting me and Ryan. We're stronger now because of what happened, because we dealt with it instead of pretending it didn't exist. You would have been fine either way," I said. "Maybe," Victoria said, "but I'm better because you were in my life, so thank you." After we hung up, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine and thought about how strange life is, how one dinner changed everything, how speaking the truth, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, is sometimes the most important thing you can do. My phone buzzed. A text from James. "Dinner tomorrow? I want you to meet my sister." I smiled and typed back. "I'd love to," because that's the thing about builders. We keep building. We keep choosing connection over destruction. We keep showing up, and eventually, we build something beautiful, something real, something that can't be taken away by people who only know how to take. I'm Madison. I'm 28, and I finally understand that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living a good life with good people while the takers are left wondering why they're always alone. That's the real poetic justice. And honestly, it feels pretty great. A few months after I blocked Amber, I got a text from an unknown number. It was late at night, around 11. "This is Linda. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know something. What you did destroyed my family. Amber and I had to start over in a new city. Your father took everything in the divorce. We have nothing. I hope you're happy." I stared at that text for a long time. The old Madison would have felt guilty, would have questioned whether I'd done the right thing, but I wasn't the old Madison anymore. I typed back, "You destroyed your own family. I just showed everyone who you really were. Good luck with your fresh start." Then I blocked that number too. James noticed I was quiet that night. "Everything okay?" he asked. Linda texted me. What did she want? To make me feel guilty, I think. Did it work? "No," I said, and I meant it. He pulled me close. "Good. You have nothing to feel guilty about." And he was right. I didn't. The holidays came. My first holidays without Amber and Linda. My dad invited me and James over for Christmas. My mom came too. It was weird at first, the three of us together, but also kind of nice. We made dinner together, laughed, told stories. My mom told James about all the embarrassing things I did as a kid. My dad showed him photos from when I was little. "Your daughter is pretty amazing," James said at one point. My parents parents looked at each other and smiled. Yeah, my dad said. She really is. That night, after James went home and my parents had left, I sat alone in my apartment and cried. Not sad tears, happy tears, relief tears. I'd gotten my family back. Not the family I thought I wanted, not the picture-perfect blended family I'd tried to force into existence, but my real family. Messy and complicated and finally honest. Work got busier. Victoria put me in charge of 3 major accounts. I hired my own team, started mentoring younger employees the way Victoria had mentored me. One of them reminded me a little of myself, at her age. Bright, eager, insecure underneath it all. Her name was Rachel. She came to me one day looking upset. Can I talk to you about something personal? She asked. Of course. My sister keeps stealing my boyfriends, every guy I bring home, and I don't know what to do about it. I sat back in my chair, smiled sadly. Let me tell you a story. I told her everything, the whole saga. Rachel listened with wide eyes. What did you do? She asked when I finished. I stopped giving her power over my choices. I stopped hiding my life from my family. And when she crossed a line that affected someone other than me, I exposed the pattern. And it worked eventually. But Rachel, here's the thing. Your sister is going to keep doing this until there are consequences, until someone stands up to her. I don't know if I can do that. You can, when you're ready. And when you do, it's going to be hard, but it's also going to be worth it. She thanked me and left. I don't know if she ever confronted her sister, but I hope she did. I hope she learned what I learned, that some battles are worth fighting. That truth is more important than peace, that you can't build a real life on a foundation of lies and silence. James proposed 6 months later. It was nothing fancy. We were hiking. He stopped at this overlook with a view of the whole valley. Madison, he said, I know we haven't been together that long, but I know what I want. And I want you. I want to build a life with you. I want to meet every challenge together. Will you marry me? I said yes before he even finished talking. We're getting married next spring. Small wedding. Just close friends and family. My mom and dad are both coming. They're both happy for me. Victoria is my maid of honor. She's also giving me away, in a way. Walking me down the aisle with my dad. It's unconventional, I told her when I asked. Everything about you is unconventional, she said, laughing. That's why I like you. Last month, I saw Amber's name pop up on my social media. She'd commented on a mutual friend's post. Out of curiosity, I clicked on her profile. It was public. Hard, looked different, older, harder. Her job history showed she'd been through 4 positions in 2 years, each one lasting less than 6 months. Part of me felt sorry for her. Part of me wondered if she'd ever learn. But mostly, I just felt grateful. Grateful that I wasn't her. Grateful that I'd chosen a different path. James caught me looking at her. Profile. Checking up on her? He asked. Just curious. You're nothing like her, you know, in case you were wondering. I know. Good, he said. Because you're about to be my wife. And I want you to know that I chose you. Not because you threw yourself at me. Not because you manipulated me, but because you're genuine. Because you're kind. Because you're you. I kissed him then. Hard. Because he got it. He understood. That's what real love is. Choice. Intention. Showing up every day and choosing each other. Not conquest. Not manipulation. Not proving you can take something that belongs to someone else. My wedding invitation to my dad had a +1. He asked if he could bring someone. A woman he'd been seeing for a few months. Her name is Catherine, he said. She's a teacher. We met at a volunteer event. I really like her, Madison, and I want you to meet her before the wedding. Make sure she's not, you know, not like Linda. Yeah. I met Catherine the following week. She was warm, funny, real. She asked me about my work. About James. She didn't try too hard. Didn't perform. I really like her, Dad. I told him after dinner. Yeah. He looked hopeful. Yeah. She seems genuine. She is. We're taking it slow. I'm not rushing into anything this time. Good. Thank you, Madison, for everything. For opening my eyes. For saving me from wasting more years with the wrong person. You're welcome, Dad. The wedding is in 3 weeks. I'm nervous and excited and grateful. Grateful for James, for my dad, for my mom, for Victoria, for every person who showed me what real relationships look like. I'm grateful that I learned the difference between taking and building. I'm grateful that I found the courage to speak truth even when it was hard. And I'm grateful that I'm not Amber, that I didn't learn those lessons, that I chose a different path. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never brought Victoria to that family dinner, if I'd just kept my world separate forever, if I'd never discovered the truth about Linda and Amber. But then I realized it doesn't matter. The truth was always there. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see it, and that made all the difference. I'm Madison. I'm 28 years old. In 3 weeks, I'm marrying the love of my life. I have a career I'm proud of, a family that's finally honest, and a future that's built on truth instead of lies. Amber and Linda are somewhere out there, still playing their games, still taking what doesn't belong to them, still leaving destruction in their wake. But that's not my story anymore. My story is about building, about choosing, about love that's real, and relationships that last because they're built on honesty and respect. That's the story I want to tell. That's the life I want to live. And as I sit here, 3 weeks before my wedding, I can honestly say I've never been happier, because I learned the most important lesson of all. The best revenge isn't revenge. It's living well. It's choosing wisely. It's building something beautiful with people who choose to build alongside you. That's real poetic justice, and it's the best feeling in the world.